Have you ever said anything like this before? We need to practice really hard in the off season in order to win a state championship. Or maybe you've said something like this: I need to study really hard in order to make an A on my test. What you've just said there in both of these different scenarios is what's called an action-result statement. An action and a result is very straightforward. It states the action and the resulting action that comes from your previous action. For instance, in practicing very hard to win a state championship, the action is practicing hard. The resulting action is winning a state championship. In studying very hard, the resulting action is making an A on your test. So action and result is very straightforward. It's probably what you think it is. But let's look at an action result and see what it is and how we use it in language and how Scripture uses it as well. So let's look at an action result and see how to identify one in Scripture. If we're going to define an action result, it can be defined this way: an action and another action that comes automatically as a result. The way we're going to identify an action result is AC for the action and RES for the result. The key words that we're going to be looking for are so that, and with the result that. So where can we find an action result in Scripture? We can find one in Matthew 8, verse 24. Matthew 8:24 says this: There arose a great storm in the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. If we're going to break this down into propositions, we see there arose a great storm in the sea, then we hit our key words, so that, so we're going to separate it right there. The boat was being swamped by the sea, by the waves. By the waves tells us the manner in which the boat was being swamped. So we have three different propositions. There arose a great storm in the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. So we want to do our small things first and then work outward. So we see right here in verse 2, in proposition 2 and 3, so that the boat was being swamped. How was it being swamped? By the waves. That was the action, being swamped. The manner it was being swamped by was by the waves. So how do we connect so that the boat was being swamped by the waves to there arose a great storm in the sea? The action was the storm rising. The action is there arose a great storm in the sea. The result was the boat being swamped by the waves. So we have an action and a result. So note, the action manner in the second proposition and the third proposition is connected to the first. If proposition 1 and proposition 2 were connected first, then connected to the third proposition, then the statement by the waves would be the manner by which not only the boat was swamped, but also by which the storm rose, which is obviously impossible. Make sure to read all the propositions in a statement before connecting them. So don't just go and connecting things as you see them. Make sure you read it all and make sure that you're putting them together according to the logic of the argument. So that's action result. It's an action that's taken and the resulting action because of the previous statement. Again, if we're going to talk about Matthew 8:24, the boat was swamped. Why? It was swamped because of the action of the storm rising. We do this all the time. We do this with different things. We say because, or we say we're going to practice so that we win a state championship, or that I'm going to study a lot so that I can make an A on the test. That's action and that's result. We see it all the time through Scripture. This leads us to why an action is being taken and what was the purpose, and it leads us straight through the argument. So that's action and result, and it's very useful when there's a lot of action, obviously, in the passage. So pay attention to that when there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different movements and characters and all that good stuff. Pay attention to that because you're probably dealing with an action result. And we'll see you in the next session.